Join award-winning author Dr. Friedemann Schaub for Empowerment Radio and learn breakthrough solutions to switch out of survival mode and approach every day with great ease, joy, and purpose. Tune in the first and third Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific to Empowerment Radio with host Dr. Friedemann Schaub on Transformation Talk Radio. Visit thefearandanxietysolution.com to learn more.
Holistic Medical Center is where you find it all. A healthy space with doctors who care, see, and listen to the whole you. Hi, this is Dr. Darvish. If you have not found an answer to your chronic symptoms, you will find answers here at Holistic Medical Center. Our doctors find the root cause of your symptoms and guide your body towards healing naturally. We transform lives from within. Visit drdarvish.com or call 425-451-0404.
Wow, everybody, welcome back. This hour is going by so quickly. Oh, my gosh. Cultures of Innovation, Claudette Rowley joining me here today. Claudette, let's take a moment if we could. And again, let's give out information about you. And folks can go to your website, too, and listen to past episodes of the show. So give out that information again.
So my website is ClaudetteRowley.com. And as Pat said, there are previous episodes of the show. There's more information about the cultural brilliance model and the process right there on the website.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I love this next topic, and I'm glad that you kind of saved this for last to talk about. There are songs, that I grew up with about seeing the signs. Seeing the signs. We're talking a lot about listening, but I think we got to take a look about, get our eyes checked a little bit too. Right. So emerging innovation, signs of an innovative culture. It's like, how many times have you worked in organizations, Claudette, and people like, I just didn't see it. I just didn't see it, Claudette.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't see it coming. Right.
Yeah. So what have you learned? What have you learned about what it takes to build a truly innovative company?
Part of it is I'm gonna borrow from a couple of people who work in innovation all the time, who wrote an article called "The 5 Requirements of a Truly Innovative Company" by Hamill and Tennant, are the authors, and they came up with these five requirements that I think say a lot, and then I'm going to add more to that as well. But one of the things they talk about is employees think like innovators. So piggybacking on something we said earlier, that we have to make sure that people are willing to be innovative, and sometimes we actually need to train them and teach them how to think like that so that they can make a good choice there about whether it works for them. Certainly having a definition of innovation sounds basic but important. If you're not on the same page about what innovation means for your company, no one's going to actually know what's going on. You might need some metrics in place if you keep metrics for innovation. And then I think almost most importantly is your leadership needs to be really, they need to be innovative themselves, and certainly supporting it and shepherding this idea of creating an innovative culture and having innovation-friendly management practices in place. So, for example, if you're going to have an innovative culture, you can't have, 3 inches of bureaucracy in place so that it takes people 2 months to get anything done. That works against innovation. Definitely. And something else that I think is so important in terms of a sign of an innovative culture is that we see those cultures and those companies starting to or continuing to solve problems in what I would call creative and life-enhancing ways. So, for example, simple example would be if you need to cut costs, you're not just going to lay off 15% of your workforce. You're going to look for another way to cut costs that don't impact your entire workforce. And I think that's a really big sign.
Why do you think it is? Yeah, why do you think it is? And this is really something that I know we're probably going to talk about down the road. Why do you think it is we don't ask employees more? Like the example I gave, where we finally did a program. It was called Ideas That Work. And it was a 30-day program. And everybody in Bell Labs or the Bell Corps at the time participated. Why do you think that the leadership team does not get the individuals more involved with cost-cutting ideas for their own groups?
I think a couple of different reasons, depending on what kind of
Yeah.
leader you are. Some leaders don't really want
Yeah.
the input. They want to make the decision and just hand it down.
Uh,
I think that's changing
mhm.
a lot. And then sometimes people, it's so simple that they overlook it. Well, we need to come up with, we need to come up with a matrix for this. We're going to do this and that. We need some sort of, process reengineering, as opposed to why don't we ask everybody to submit their ideas for cost cutting by the end of next week?
Yeah.
Let's have a town hall meeting and
Yeah.
see what ideas come up. Sometimes it's actually
I
overlooked.
mean, do you think that, do we have this thing that's happening? And I'm not sure that this happened overnight, but over time, I've got to bring up the idea of trust and innovation, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you've talked about this before. I know it's part of the cultural brilliance approach and model, but I can't help imagine that you're going to have an innovative culture if you're not having trust go on there.
You're not going to have too much of an innovative culture without trust. And especially having an internally innovative culture without trust. So yeah, you've got to have trust in place. And that is certainly a sign of an innovative culture. We could have a culture with trust that's not innovative. So there are other factors in place, I think, but it's definitely a sign of either innovation or potential for innovation to have that kind of trust, because with that trust, you can take more risks, you can build relationships, you can debate important ideas. People aren't going to hold back because they don't feel safe to talk about something unpopular. It's a good point.
Yeah. And I think this talks to your point about, political agendas, infighting, all of those unresolved things. So, part of what you do in working with organizations, you really have to get in there and figure out what's happening in the organization. And what's interesting about innovation, your approach to this really includes a version of climate, meaning organizational culture and organizational climate have always been looked at separately. And I think by the the model of authenticity, you're going to be in the pulse of what's happening here, right?
Absolutely. You're on the pulse of what's happening here. And another sign of an innovative culture is that there's a quality of high emotional energy amongst the people that work there. Again, at all levels, there's a sense of vitality. People may work hard. They might get tired and stressed at times, but generally speaking, they like why they're there and what they're doing. And that's a sign of innovation as well, because it's a sign of creativity and positive energy.
Yeah. And, the companies that you talked about earlier, I mean, surely we're not talking about all of the innovative companies that we point to today and we look at in the world. Certainly we're seeing some innovation in some of the green companies. Some of the things that are being created that have never been created before. Like I just saw somebody invented a solar panel walkway where the walkway was solar paneled and the wire was lighting up the entire street or something like that. So I want to ask you, when we step back and look at this, what's the message in this today? And I can't believe how quickly the hour has gone by. But what's the message? What do you want to leave folks with today?
One of the things I'd like to leave folks with is when you think about an innovative culture, I like to relate it to what I call brilliant cultures. And brilliant cultures are responsive to the needs of their people, their systems, and the external environment. So when cultures are innovative, we know they're responding to their external environment because the external environment is buying their products and services most of the time. We know they're responsive to their systems, and I think at least fairly responsive to people. And so an innovative culture has an aspect of brilliance to it. And it has an aspect of responsiveness to it. And it also has an aspect, I think, of looking for the unknown, looking for the needs that have not been addressed yet, which was considered usually a hallmark of innovation. And that makes me think of one of my favorite quotes by Miles Davis, which is, "Don't play what's there, play what's not there." And I think cultures of innovation are doing exactly that.
Wow. Thank you, Claudette. What a great show. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Pat.
Wow. I want to thank everybody for tuning us in and turning us on, and know that we've got more to come. more conversations about culture, innovation, and more conversation about how to value not just the work and the end game, but the people that make it happen. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the hit show Cultural Brilliance Radio, the DNA of organizational excellence with Claudette Rowley. Conversations that are transforming the world of culture and business. You can download this podcast and find out more about Claudette and her breakthrough work at ClaudetteRowley.com. Please contact Claudette and find out how you can create a brilliant culture.